Yeah. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting for Bedford Township, March 6, 2018. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, I'd like to invite Pastor Lee Herbert from Abundant Life Ministries to open us up in prayer. Just make sure the green light's on that bottom of it. Yep. Right.
No.
Oh, no.
No.
Is that light on the? Yep. Yep.
All right. There we go. Thank you. For those who care to, would you please bow your head with me? Father God, we ask you, the Father, to bless the leadership meeting tonight. The Father, give them the spirit of wisdom from above, that the decisions they make here tonight, Father, to affect the township and the people, be one that will glorify your name, Father, and give positive direction in the way that we ought to go. We thank you for the privilege of being able to serve, and we praise your holy name. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you very much. Okay. Item number 2, approval of the agenda.
The swearing in will not be happening tonight because
Okay.
they're attending a fire.
Okay, so item 4A will be removed from the agenda. Any other discussion on the agenda? Okay, I look for a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the agenda with 4A stricken.
Okay.
Support.
Motion supported by Ms. Tinnevery. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clement?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery? Aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Steiner is excused. Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Okay. Item 3, the consent agenda, the agenda committee reports. A, the committee recommends to the full board to approve and place on file the minutes of the February 20th, 2018 regular meeting of the Bedford Township Board. B, the committee recommends to the full board to appoint Lear Welch to the Fire Advisory Board for a first term ending 12/31/2019. Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion.
Okay. We have a motion.
Second.
Motion supported by Mr. Fredericks. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery? Aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Item 4, presentations. B, presentation by Pastor Nate Ellerton, Communication Media Committee, and approval of communication items.
Hey, everybody. I've been asked by the Communication Committee to represent them and requesting the following items. I think you have a packet with you. On the front of that, it's just a breakdown of those items. We're pretty excited on the Communication Committee as we continue to roll forward to have better media communications. We now have, we have 2 stations. So one is a government station and one is a community station. We want to develop both of those, and these items here will give us the ability to do that. The request for approval is a Dell laptop. Currently have none, which is needed for the producing and the editing of videos. We got 3 bids. The cheapest bid is in your packet. I think all of them are in your packet there, but the cheapest bid that is Great Lakes Multimedia Supply. And that would be our preference, to go with that company because they're really helpful and we have a good relationship with them. Cost of that is $1,486. The second is the software, which allows the editing. This software is not sold. It's only, a lot of the software companies now are going to subscriptions. And the subscription is Adobe Premiere Pro CC. It also has 30 other applications in the cloud, which will enhance all of the editing and programming things that we'll be able to do for future programs. And then a annual membership to the Membership for Alliance for Community Media, which would allow George and 4 others to attend for networking, ideas, talking to other townships, seeing what they're doing, and how they're using media to promote and communicate. The purchases, you can read those. I'm not going to read them. We need the laptop, obviously, to get everything going. We need the Adobe Premiere editing program to edit all of the footage that is shot and to make bumpers and trailers and enhance all that. And then the membership fee is for that. And so those 3 things are there. Why do we need this at the bottom? We want to work on a Bedford promotional video to promote our township for economic development, for people that think they might want to come and move here. We can put these on YouTube. People can search for them and find them. They can be on the channels that we have. There's new programs that we also want to do about the services for our township. That can be looping, and whether it's ordinance communication or township information that can get out to our people quicker. And then on the community channel, we could do even community interest-based programs in the future. And the editing program, the software will allow us to do all of that. Do you have any questions?
I have a quick question. With the total, it shows 145636, and you said 1486. I just didn't know.
Just a miss.
Okay, that's a
Typo.
typo.
Just a typo? Okay.
Yep,
It is
sorry.
56.
It is 56, okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure.
Just save $30.
Yeah.
Ms. Tinderberry?
The membership in this Alliance of Community Media, where is that located?
I don't know. Deb, do you know?
Well, are you going to have to travel to California to go to these meetings?
That's a good question. Monroe.
Okay. And then my other question is probably to Trudy. Does IT Right support all of this, or what are we doing for support, maintenance support?
They would support all this.
All of this? Okay.
Yeah, the township would own the computer.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions from the board?
At our next meeting, we're having a brainstorming session to get the promotional video ready, and we think that's going to really benefit, and we're looking forward to how we can help the township more and more and get the word out there about us.
Very good. Appreciate it. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, discussion from board members? Okay. Seeing none, I look for a motion. Mr. Francis?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the purchases recommended by the Communication and Media Committee to purchase a Dell laptop from Great Lakes Multimedia in the amount of $1,456.36 per the quotation, and that we also approve purchasing the Adobe Premiere Pro software at a monthly charge of $69, and also the annual membership fee of $45 for a membership in the Alliance of Community Media, all as presented.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, support, discussion. Mr. Frederick?
Well, is there a budget for this, or will this come out of the general fund?
It'll come out of the technology.
Technology
budget that we-
millage?
Budget.
Budget, technology budget,
Yeah.
okay. There is a budget for this. Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion?
I have a, Nate,
Pastor Nate, can you come on?
I know that we're getting donated a TV. I didn't know if you wanted to let the board know that. There's talk of a
There were a couple other
donation.
budget items, and they've been donated, so they were eliminated from the request tonight.
That was a TV and,
Some speakers.
okay.
Do we need a motion to accept that donation to the township, or? No? Okay.
No, I just
Alright.
wanted you to be aware that
Okay.
they were being donated.
As long as it goes on the list of things that we own, you don't need,
Okay.
And ensure.
I'm teasing.
All right, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Thank you very much for all your guys' work and bringing this to us, so. Okay, number 6, staff reports. Oh, I'm sorry, number 5, public comment. Comments limited to 2 minutes for board agenda items only. So at this time, come on up.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 1308 Brandywine Street. This is in regards to 6A. This is from the American Red Cross. It says the American Red Cross supports the position that improved training and access to AEDs, which is automated external defibrillators, could save 50,000 lives each year. The Red Cross believes that all Americans should be within 4 minutes of an AED and someone trained in it. About 350,000 Americans will experience some kind of heart problems this year. It takes nationally about 8 to 12 minutes for a 911 call for someone to respond, which reduces the survival rate by 10% for each minute. So the bottom line is I hope that this board unanimously approves the AED request by the fire department. Thank you.
Any more comments? Seeing none? No, I'm just kidding, Dale.
Been a long day. Probably don't want to do that. Dale Track, 2842 Sanibel Lane. Mr. Supervisor, I'd like to discuss new business 8C here. Request for approval of the resolution for the local public transportation service renewal proposal to be placed on the August 7th, 2018 primary election ballot. Mr. Supervisor, I would ask that this board absolutely reject Lake Erie Transit. They have been, let's just say, abusive with taxpayer money. They came in here a couple years back pleading poverty, thinking that we're going to cut routes, you know, we're not going to be able to provide service. So what did they do? Last couple holiday seasons, Christmas seasons, they throw parties. Not cheap ones either. Nice big steak dinners. We're talking $6,000 of taxpayer money. Is that the way that they're supposed to take care of transportation money? By spending it, by going out to eat? And then by when people that are leaving from the party, their parting gift is a honey-baked ham. That's absolutely absurd. The abuse of taxpayer money, what a mistrust. There's a lot of ways that we could spend $250,000 in this township. And that simply isn't one that we should be looking at if they're going to be that way. And they didn't stop there, though. They spent $42,000 on making our buses nice and pretty. They're buses. They're not Rolling Stones caravans. They get you from point A to point B. And a $20 ride is what they were averaging. That's what it was costing. I think we could do better with our money. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Oh, yes, there's more comments. My name is Mark Jagosinski. I live at 6318 Brent Valley, Temperance, Michigan. And I'm the Bedford Chloride and Lake Erie Transit General Manager. I'm offended, certainly, by what whoever he is just stated. His facts are completely wrong. And amazing that how far he took.
Hey, Mark, could you please address the chair?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Let's talk about the dinner, first of all. Lake Erie Transit holds an annual Christmas dinner once a year. And that dinner is for our board members. Our board members receive no compensation. Our board members receive no mileage. Our board members receive no benefits. Our board members receive no health care. They get nothing. So at the end of the year, Lake Erie Transit likes to show appreciation to its board members and buy them a dinner. And we had dinner at Northwood Villa, which was about 20 bucks a plate. So clearly somebody has no idea what they're talking about. Second of all, our employees also enjoy a ham. By the way, it's not a honey-baked ham. It's a local ham from hamguys.com. I'll go ahead and plug them. And we only pay about 25 bucks for that ham. And yes, we did pass out hams to our board members. We passed out a ham to our representatives that were there, and they appreciate that. And I think that's a small cost to continue a great relationship with your state representatives and your board members. We also give that hand to our employees. And from that standpoint, I'd like to point out that our employees, they don't receive a defined benefit plan. They get a 60-cent contribution to an annuity that the steelworkers holds for them. Our employees don't receive any cash bonus for Christmas. Our employees don't have expensive health care. We, Lake Erie Transit, pay the hard cap amount, and the employees pay the rest. So it is, I think, a nice gesture on the part of Lake Erie Transit to go ahead and make that contribution to the employees. And then I will speak later. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments from the public? Okay, seeing none. Okay, 6, staff reports. 6A, request for approval to purchase 3 AEDs from Physio Control. Chief Massingill, come on up.
Thank you, and thanks to Mr. Tisdale for pointing out some of the statistics that help explain this need that we've got. This is pretty cut and dry, pretty straightforward. We've got about a dozen AEDs that we carry in our fire trucks and our ambulances. They're aging as some of our other equipment. We've got 3 of them that we can't really service anymore. They don't make parts. They don't adapt down for pediatric patients, and they can't be annually certified because the company says they're just too old. They're not going to certify that they're going to be effective when we need them. So we'd like to stay with the Physio Control. We buy direct from Physio Control. It's the equipment we purchase with the ambulance. It's the equipment we have here in the Township Hall, and it's quality equipment. We would like to stay with them, and we've asked for a quote from Physio Control. The total is $7,130.60. Well, obviously, we're working towards our capital replacement plan, and we'd like to replace 1 or 2 every year moving forward, probably 1 every year moving forward, if we can get these 3 in service and kind of rotate the older ones back so that we could get the 3 oldest out of service.
Okay, questions for Chief Massingill? Oh, Mr. Frederick?
Chief, wasn't there someplace closer than Microsoft headquarters to buy these?
No, sorry.
Redmond, Washington?
It's a national account.
Oh, okay, that's all I need.
Yeah, we buy direct from Physio Control, that's all. So I mean, we could get 3 quotes locally, but they're going to be marked up. They're going to buy from Physio direct and then mark them up. There's really no value in it.
Yeah, we want to be smart there.
Right.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Okay, seeing none, I look for motion.
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we purchase 3 AEDs from Physio Control at a cost not to exceed $7,130.60, and that the charge be to the fire department budget.
Okay.
Support.
A motion, support of Ms. Tinnevery, discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Okay, just hang out right there. Okay, item 6B, request for approval to purchase a 2018 Smeel Spartan Quint apparatus from R&R Fire Truck Repair Incorporated. Chief?
Yep. This project's been ongoing just about a year now. We started working, and we formed a committee about a year ago. We were looking at needs of the organization, and very early on, we discussed it in the Fire Authority Board. We discussed it in our officers' meetings and in our general meetings, the need to replace our current ladder truck. Our ladder truck's a 1992, and we've talked about it numerous times. It should be, or it's recommended to replace in about 25 years. We're seeing the days out of service. We're seeing the cost to repair it every year increase, and really reliability is a big concern. So we started working about a year ago with this committee that explored. It started out by trying to identify some quality fire truck manufacturers. There are about 42, give or take, fire truck manufacturers in the United States. And I said, we're going to keep an open mind, we're going to look, we're going to try and narrow that list down to about 5 or 6. We narrowed it down to 5, and we did the process. The process was very different. It was different than anything I'd ever done or our department's ever done. So historically, we would invite a manufacturer in to help us write a bid spec package. The trouble with writing a bid spec package like that is when you invite a specific manufacturer in to write the bid specs, oftentimes it will favor that specific manufacturer. So we opted to give them a general wish list, send it out to the 5 manufacturers of the things we wanted, let them each write their bid specs, and then bring them back in and review those specs to see if we could find something or a number of things that we liked from each manufacturer. We completed that last fall. We brought the specifications in. We went through them. At that time, there were 3 manufacturers that submitted specifications through that process. We evaluated those, and it took a number of months to evaluate those, both internally and externally. We had some outside experts look at them, and we sent the specifications out a second time with some suggestions for all 3 of them that we would like to see changed if we were to move forward with their products. During that time, we traveled to all 3 of their factories and evaluated the manufacturing. We test drove their trucks. We operated their trucks to make sure that we were comfortable with all 3. And I believe in about December, we received the sealed bid packages back that you have in front of you that were in the board packet from the 3 manufacturers. Again, that was, I think, mid-January or the end of January. And again, we got into the specs to make sure we hadn't missed anything. We sent them out yet again to the outside to make sure that that there were good packages, that we were going to be comfortable with them. And at the end of the day, we recommend, and we stay with the recommendation, or I stand behind the recommendation of the committee, as with some input from the outside sources for the Smeel Spartan Quint apparatus from our fire truck. Now, through the course of the due diligence that we had been working on, the specs from the manufacturers were only really good for 60 days. So we went back to them and asked if they would extend that past at least us getting it in front of you for the board discussion. They've agreed to that, to extend it out past the board discussion tonight and hold their pricing. All of them have price increases that have, since the bid was been submitted, that have come out, but they agreed to hold it at least through tonight so we could have a discussion on it. They expect probably around a 3% increase, or they say there's been a 3% increase since the bids were submitted. So that's really the reason that we put together the request. We got it to you as fast as we possibly could after we were comfortable with the recommendation, and really generally flooded as much information as we could for your review. As far as the financing goes for it, we've applied for a federal grant, and that would be our first case. That would be the best case would be if we were successful with a federal grant. It would ease the burden of us, although I've got to caution the board to say that federal grants are few and far between when it comes to fire truck apparatus. We're competing for a very limited amount of money with everybody throughout the country, and they just don't come in. They're just not successful very often. So while that would certainly be the first choice for the financing option for this, it's kind of a low percentage possibility at this point, but certainly one that we submitted for last month and are hoping that we could be successful with. The second best option we feel would be the millage request in August. If the millage request is approved, then we would have in place a good mechanism for a short-term payment plan, maybe only a couple of years, that we would have to finance the project to get the Quint apparatus ordered. The third option is the one that I presented some finance information with the help from Mr. Francis, and we sat down and talked with Mr. Manning about it today to make sure that we were all comfortable and understood the numbers. That would be a longer-term finance plan, which would give us a mechanism to get the truck ordered right away while we were still working on the millage request and or another grant request. So that would look like probably a 12-year finance plan for the apparatus, which would be able to fit within our existing budget. We would draw down our capital a little bit within the organization, After the 4 years was up, we'd be about $125,000 out of our capital fund.
Fund balance.
Yeah, fund balance, I'm sorry. Out of our fund balance. Right now, our fund balance sits at about $450,000. We would, so, assuming that we had to finance it for the 12 years while we were making the payment for both the ambulance and the replacement, we would roughly draw the fund balance down to about $325, assuming we spent all of our budget throughout those next 4 years. Now, we haven't done that. We were, I think, $30,000 under budget last year, about $90,000 the year before, according to Mr. Manning. So I don't think that it would present a great risk to us. It wouldn't deplete all of our fund balance. The last thing I wanted to say, or I probably missed, throughout the process, the committee kind of evolved a little bit from when we initially started talking about replacing the truck. The request is for a multi-purpose truck. We know that we've got 2 engines that are 25 years old and 1 ladder truck that's 25 years old. As we set out and we started researching things, we wanted to be able to replace or come to you tonight with an apparatus that would not only take the place of the ladder truck, but also one of the engines. So they worked really hard on the specs to get more water on it, to get a bigger pump on it, to be able to carry more hose than we typically may be able to with a conventional ladder truck. That's called a Quinn apparatus because it serves 5 different functions. It'll be able to carry extrication equipment, extra tools for rescue, those types of things. So this truck that we're hoping to gain approval for is a multi-function truck that's going to serve even more purpose than the one that we have now. The plan being we can eliminate 2 liabilities as far as 25, 26, 27-year-old fire apparatus, combine it into one, and have a reliable piece of equipment in the truck, in this station.
Okay, questions for Chief Massingill? Ms. Stinneberry?
Okay, just let me clarify that I'm hearing what you're saying. We are, if the board approves this tonight, you're ordering the truck.
There would be a lot of benefit to ordering the truck right away.
Right.
One of
So
the,
just answer yes or no.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
You're ordering the truck. I'm fine with that. Okay, so you're ordering the truck.
Yeah.
So the best way to pay for that would be if we be fortunate enough to get the grant.
Correct.
If we don't get the grant, then we're hoping that the millage passes that we've agreed to put on the ballot.
Correct.
If we don't get the millage, then this will have to be paid for in 12 years.
That's correct.
And then if we don't get the millage, all those other ones go away anyway, or not all of them, but, you know, you're not going to be able to do what you were going to do with the millage.
That's not going to be able to do.
Well, I mean, you had other trucks and equipment that, you know, we looked at in terms of paperwork for what was going to be paid for out of the millage over 10 years.
So if the millage was successful, this replacement, the Quint ladder truck, would fit within that planning that we had over those 10 years. If the millage was not successful in August, we would still have the capacity to have ordered and pay for this truck when it comes in. But that's correct. The rest of the capital would have to be put on hold until we're successful in finding some more funds to continue with the rest of the
Okay,
upgrades.
it was a succession that I wanted to be sure we were going to follow that. Okay,
Yes,
thank you. Thank you for this, too. This
Yeah.
helped me a lot. I don't know about everybody else, but helped me a lot.
Well, a couple things I look at. One, if we decide not to order it tonight, it's potentially $30,000 more dollars if we waited till August. If we wait till August, now we're looking at, what do we have, 6 months till August, roughly? So now we're pushing out that, what?
Not quite 6 months.
Whatever it is, what is it, 4 or 5 months? Whatever it is, we're adding to that to where we're taking the chance of the ladder truck breaking down that much longer. It's already broken down on a scene, you know, this past year. So for me, it's, you know, we need the truck either way. We have the means to pay for it now. Might not be the most ideal way, but we need the truck. The other thing I look at is you're replacing an apparatus. So you know, really, that's $500,000 we would normally spend on one, and either way, that has to be replaced at some point too. We're not meeting the fire code with the age of the apparatuses, so those things for me is enough to say yes now. So,
And we have to understand that if we place the order this week, it's about 390 days before we take delivery. So even delay until August, understandably, it's 390 days from August as well. We're sort of on borrowed time, I would agree, Mr. Supervisor, now, and we will be in August as well.
just a quick question, I'm not questioning on what you guys have done, because
Sure.
You guys have always went with Pierce over the years. And Smeal is comparable, I would assume?
Yeah, I asked the guys to come in with an open mind. And oftentimes, many fire departments do this, are really comfortable with a certain product, and they convince themselves, or we convince ourselves, that that's the only product that's of quality out there, and we know that's not necessarily true. So I simply asked them to come in with an open mind to look at the apparatus, and to consider all three, especially when we knew it was down to three, to consider all three options. At the end of the day, when we laid the specs side by side, we feel that Smeal was a stronger spec. We're not uncomfortable with Pierce, certainly, and I wouldn't say that if down the road we would say, oh, no, we're not going to look at a Pierce again, but we're very, very comfortable with the Smeal Spartan Quint. You know, it's interesting that the guys initially said, well, we don't know anything about Smeal ladder trucks. And up until, well, I think right around the time that we bought ours, we went out in the bay and said, hey, that Pierce truck that we've been driving for 25 years actually has a Smeal ladder on it, because Smeal built the ladders for Pierce for a number of years. So unknowingly, we actually do know something about the Smeal ladders. We've been using one for 25 years with some pretty good success.
Okay, very cool. Any more discussion from board members? Mr. Fredericks?
We met recently, and I asked you 3 questions. First question was, how are you going to pay for this? Second question I ask is, why do we need it now? Actually, I asked you a third question. I said, what's the trade-in value of the clunker we have now? You told me about $20,000 to $30,000. Yeah. I thought the steel in it was worth more than that, but that's okay. And I asked if you and Mr. Francis had worked out the payment schedule, or how we were going to pay for it, or what it was going to be financed, how it was going to be financed. And I know Mr. Francis has brought this before us tonight. I'll let him explain this. I agree with our supervisor. Number one, we need this piece of equipment. We're building 3-story apartment complexes over on Lewis Avenue for senior citizens. We have the industrial complex, where if we have a fire there, the only way to get to the field is actually to have a ladder truck with the ability to reach where the fire might be. Even though those are sprinklered and all that, you still have to have the ability. And number 5, 6, wherever I am in whatever my list. I'm very concerned that our firefighters have the top equipment, best equipment that we can afford. So when they get to the incident, they turn on the switch and it works. I've said that before, and I will continue to say that. I would hate to pull up in front of one of our citizens' houses and we have a piece of equipment that goes flat and the house burns to the ground. We don't want that. So I'm going to support this only because Mr. Francis and I have already talked about the process a little bit, about how this will be paid for. Yeah, there's some risk. I'm willing to take that risk. But if it falls flat on our face, I'll be the first one to say, whoops. So I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, Chief, I'll be brief. I agree with all the comments. The one thing I do want to tell you is thank you. Throughout this whole process, it's a complex piece of equipment, something that I think most of us would agree we know nothing about. and your level of communication through this entire process has been phenomenal. Not only forwarding information, but then being available to kind of dissect it and explain it in lay terms. And so I don't think anybody could ask for a purchase this size and have done a better job preparing and keeping the board informed, so that tonight we're not making, you know, an ad hoc decision. But I think everybody's real comfortable with the history you've been through and where we are tonight. So thank you for that.
There definitely shouldn't be a table.
Absolutely not.
Any more discussion?
I just wanted to say that, thank you, and that out of all the times I've put out bids, this was the most unique one, but it's the most bids I've received back. So, congratulations on that.
And that's probably because of the spec process.
It is.
For sure,
It's
so.
exactly because of the specs process.
Ms. Tenenberry?
I just want to apologize to you. It is 6 months.
Is it 6 months? That was a guess, too. Apology accepted.
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Mr. Francis?
When we first started talking about this, I was a little nervous about buying a $1.1 million unit and not having an income stream that I could see running out 10 years to pay for that, because that was just one of the pieces in the entire equipment replacement schedule that Nancy spoke about, that we've all seen several times, which is about $4.5 million roughly. I was a little nervous about that. And then I got to running the numbers to see what loans we actually have out right now, and we have two. One, we have a payment left on the 2013 Pierce pumper that we bought in 2013. Then that payment drops off, goes away. We just purchased a 2017 ambulance, and we've scheduled that out. That's payable over 4 years, and that drops off after the 21-22 fiscal year end, as you can see on the schedule. And then I just made a guess. What if we were to borrow this $1.125 million, if we borrow the money from a bank or wherever? Now, this, I think, would qualify for bank purchases because it's an installment payment. We did something similar on a much smaller scale with the ambulance. In December, that was closed. So I just guessed at the interest rate and plugged it in, came up with these numbers and dropped these numbers in, just to see where we might be cash flow-wise. Can we afford to pay off these three loans? And the answer, frankly, surprised me a bit. We are able to do that. And I think we still need to go for the $500,000 10-year levy to buy equipment. If we were to be successful on that, we'd see the first proceeds from that going out. It'd be billed in the December 18 tax bills that we'd get about a year from now. That would enable us to maybe buy some other equipment other than this until this is needed in 14 months or 13 months, however many months it is till we get it. And then at that time, we could say, well, gee, do we need this piece of equipment more than we would like to pay down on the loan, save interest money? We have the option to do that, and we have the financial stream of income for 10 years that'll allow us to have you that, to give you that flexibility, which I think is good. We're not trapped. We have the flexibility of doing where we think the greatest need is. So I'm convinced that we should do it, even though we don't know if we're going to pass the millage in August. I hope we do. We need to explain it to the public, meet with them, whoever would like to talk about it. This is going to, that millage is restricted only for replacing equipment. It's not for operation money. It's for equipment and maintenance. I think if we do a decent job in getting the word out, what the need is and how it's restricted, hopefully it will pass, because that would go a long way to securing the future for equipment needs in the fire department. And that's really what we need to do.
Is that a motion?
No.
Oh.
If we're ready,
Oh,
I'll
okay.
make one.
I might, if I can just add one thing. Between the bid price, the bids that we had sent out were for the truck and some ladders. Now, the request is for a little more than that. We're looking at, like you said, $1,125,000. we feel like it's important, or this is an important opportunity, not to receive that piece of apparatus and be putting 25, 28-year-old extrication equipment back on it. So we've asked for the ability to outfit it with tools, or the flexibility to outfit it with tools with this request as well. When we sit down for the pre-construction with the manufacturer, to be able to say, hey, we need new tools on this as well. We don't want to put those old tools on. So really, generally with this request, we're addressing more than just the two apparatus needs as well. We're also catching an extrication equipment need and some other tools that we really need to be replaced as well.
Okay, question?
One question I forgot to ask. We have put anything down on this?
No, sir.
Oh,
We don't. Well, certainly some prepayment options.
so your good looks made it work. Huh?
Yeah.
You're blushing
I'm
over what
blushing.
Lamar said? Are you kidding me?
They did ask for a picture of the chief, I understand.
Yeah. Well, they're doing it on the good faith of our township and on our budget and on our funding, and so let's go forth and get it done.
Okay, I look for a motion. Mr. Francis?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the purchase of a 2018 Schmiel Spartan Quint apparatus and the necessary equipment that goes with that, as explained in the memo from the chief, with a total cost not to exceed $1,125,000.
Second.
Support. Go ahead.
Okay, motion supported by Mr. Fredericks. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0.
Thanks. I've got two items for staff report, just real quick, if that's okay.
Yep.
First, Fire Marshal Whipple's indicated he's planning on retiring sometime in June. As such, we had posted internally, and I think I shared this with the board, but I just wanted to touch on it. We'd internally posted a job posting for interested candidates to contact me with a letter of interest and a resume. It's based on the fire department's rules and regulations, the fire inspector job description that I got from Trudy, so it was based on the job description that was adopted, I'm not sure how many years ago, but a number of years ago by the township board. So we're staying with that, but I just wanted to discuss that. We'll be moving forward with that process. We hope to have a smooth and easy transition as a fire marshal retires out with bringing a replacement in. And our hope is, as I think we've discussed in the past at different times, to have a viable candidate internally that take over and accept that position. So that's something that's exciting that we're moving forward with. Also, and I saved this till after the vote because I didn't want to give the impression that, or the discussion about the new truck, I didn't want to give the impression that I was trying to add any pressure, but the ladder truck's it is out of service for repairs. It's going to be out of service for a number of weeks. They're having difficulty actually with the age of the engine finding parts for it, but we're working as quickly as we can to get it repaired and back in service so that we have a viable option moving forward until the new one would come in. So,
Okay, well, thank your group for all their work. I know it was a long process and a lot of traveling, so appreciate it.
Absolutely.
So,
all right, thanks.
very good, thank you. Okay, moving on to old business, we have none. 8 is new business. 8A, request for approval of vouchers for payment. Ms. Hirschberger?
I'd like to make a motion that the following vouchers be approved for payment. General Fund, $60,022.71. Fire District, $24,626.55. Police Fund, $482.50. Park Fund, $1,442.64. Library Fund, $6,968.68. Downtown Development Authority, $6,618.53. Sewer O&M Fund, $392,704.06. Trusted Agency Fund, $1,950.90, for a grand total of $494,816.57.
Support.
Okay, motion supported, discussion?
Just one comment on the large amount in the sewer O&M fund, and that is due to a $385,000 and some change bi-monthly billing from the Drain Commission for operating our sewer plant. That's why it's so large.
Okay, could you call the roll, please?
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Peroni?
Aye, the motion passed 6-0. Okay, 8B, request to waive the site plan fees for Ivor J. Lindsay Housing to construct a maintenance garage and increase parking. Okay, the request is for consideration to waive the site plan fees for a new maintenance garage and adding parking to the Ivor J. Lindsay housing site located on Lewis Avenue. The fees required for the site plan approval are $1,500, $500 fees, and $1,000 in escrow. The project is being proposed through a grant, and it should be noted that in the event that the grant is not received, the project will not move forward, and the above-mentioned fees will not be required. Mr. Fredericks, do you have anything you want to add, or is that sufficient?
Mr. Supervisor, I move that we waive the site plan approval fees for the Ivor J. Lindsay Housing Maintenance Garage, provided that the federal grant is received, which would pay for this improvement.
Support.
We have a motion, supported by Mr. Clements. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry?
Aye.
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Item 8C, request for approval of the resolution for the local public transportation service renewal proposal to be placed on the August 7th, 2018 primary election ballot. Mr. Jackson, come on up. Mr. Francis, you want to take this memo? Or do you want to let whoever wants to take
I'd
it?
rather have the,
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Okay, in order to set facts straight, Lake Erie Transit has never pleaded poverty. The reason Lake Erie Transit comes here and asks about a millage for the Bedford Chloride is what we do for all the areas that we serve in Monroe County. We ask that the local community pay a share of that service. And we collect the state dollars or the federal dollars and the fare box money, and then we subtract that out and we come up with what it costs to run the service in that local area. In Bedford, it happens to be about $260,000, and we have a ballot, millage ballot, that pays that now as we bill Bedford Township monthly. That issue expires at the end of this year, so the last collection will be in December. So in looking forward, we would like to continue service in Bedford Township with the 2 buses that we have operating Monday through Friday, and continue to have you put the $250,000 on the ballot and fund this service for another 4 years. The budget for Lake Erie Transit is $5 million a year. Bedford Chloride represents about 8% of that, right around $400,000 a year, and we're asking that the township contribute about $260,000 a year. If expenses don't run as high as we had budgeted, then we bill less to Bedford, which has been the case the last couple of years. So we're looking for the township approval, but keep in mind, this is your bus service. It's not Lake Erie Transit's bus service. This is the service that we're providing in Bedford for Bedford residents. Open any questions.
Okay, questions from board members? Ms. Tinneberry?
The memo says attached to a Find a Bedford Chloride budget for 2019, but there's no budget attached.
I provided a budget, but I have one here.
Well, I can't look at it now.
Okay, well, I
Time
did
to look
provide
at it
one,
for-
so I don't know why you don't have it.
Well, did anyone else get a budget? No. So,
that's probably my fault, Nancy, that it wasn't in the packet. It's just an oversight. This is no change in the service that we have now. I sit on that board and go to the monthly meetings, and I'm confident they are operating a very efficient operation, and Smart feels the same way, which is their major benefactor. And I'm proud to say that. They need to be proud of operating in that manner.
well, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be proud. I'm just saying that as a trustee, to approve this, I need some kind of statistics. I need a budget. I also need, every year we've done this, I've asked for the statistics of how many people ride, how much you collect from riders, all the statistics that, to me, are common sense before we ask our people to pay $256,000.
Okay, first of all, the budget is $403,033, which we're asking the township to pay $260,313, considering fare box revenues of $10,000 and federal money of $132,720 for our fiscal year 2019. Ridership is somewhere around 19,000 rides per year. It fluctuates between 1,500 and 3,500 a month. The ridership data is provided to the township, but not specifically to each trustee. If you would like it sent specifically to you, I have no problem sending it to you. But in the last 3 or 4 times that I've been here, I've provided ridership statistics every single time. So to say that you've never gotten it
I didn't
is
say
quite a
I've never gotten
surprise.
it. I said the last times you've done this, we have received it. Exactly what I said.
Right, okay.
And so
And I
I-
provided budget and ridership data, but apparently that didn't get disseminated to all the trustees.
Well, we have a lot of time. I would just like to suggest to the board that this be tabled until we can all see the budget. I like to work the numbers myself, so there's plenty of time to get it on the August ballot. We only need 45 days.
Okay, any more discussion from board members? Or questions, comments? I mean, you were in my office with Mr. Francis. We went over the budget. I was comfortable with it. We discussed what we wanted it to look like. We didn't need to increase it because in 4 years, it's basically the money's will even out. Right now, I think you're a little bit ahead, right?
Right, right.
But in the 4 years with the renewal,
Right,
you know, the cost is going up, but we'll be pretty much even in 4 years, roughly.
right. And I think the one
And
thing to
we'll-
keep in mind is anticipating that the SEV increases a little bit each year is probably what is offsetting any extra cost in those years.
Yeah.
So that's why we're able to stay at the renewal level of .25.
Yeah. You know, the ridership in Bedford isn't through the roof. I mean, what do you have?
No,
You know,
but
right
it's up
around-
12% this year alone.
Yeah.
It is probably the only area of service that we have a continued increase every month. We have only 2 buses down here, so it's not going to increase a whole lot because those 2 buses can only do so much.
And keep in mind, I've had conversations with different people about this. We remove the ballot language. If there's another service out there that somebody thinks we can do for a lot cheaper without interrupting Bedford Township, we're open to it. The ballot says, you know, it doesn't say
No, that's right. It
specifically
no
LED
longer says
anymore.
Bedford, Dollarite,
So
or
that's
Lake Erie
always,
Transit.
that's
Yeah.
always an option. The people the people that do ride it in Bedford absolutely 100% need it. I mean, it's, like I said, there's probably 70 people. I think somewhere around there, 100 people, something like that use it on a regular basis in Bedford.
Could be,
But
yeah.
they definitely depend on it. I've talked with Smart, and they're $35 round trip compared to Lake Erie Transit.
Well, and our trip right now is $16.42, and the $260,000, actually, the Bedford cost for each trip is $10.60 based on numbers as of last month. So the township is actually contributing to that ride $10.60.
Yeah, and some people might say, well, why don't you just bump the ridership fee? You know, from what is it, $2 or something?
It's $1 in Bedford.
One way,
One way.
per ride. When they
ride,
say a
one way.
ride,
If
a
you're
ride,
senior or
is they pick you
disabled,
up,
it's-
take you to Kroger, that's a ride.
Right, but senior or disabled is 50 cents.
So
And
if we raised it to $10 per ride,
ridership would probably drop right off.
but it'd drop right up, but it wouldn't really make that big of a difference.
We probably
in
wouldn't
your-
raise enough money in the increased fare box to actually increase revenue at all.
So, you know, there's a lot of discussion about it, but I look at it, to me personally, as an economic development for the people that do use it. They have to have it, but we need to be better in Bedford about promoting it. A lot of people don't even know we have it. So we've been really good to try. Yeah, you laugh, but I'm telling you, people don't realize a lot of the services we have. So we've been really good about trying to put it out there and promote it the best we can. You know, heck, $250,000 is a lot of money when you think about the amount of riders. But keep in mind, it was on the ballot, how many years ago?
3 years ago.
3 years ago when it passed. So I have a hard time, me as a trustee, saying no to put it on the ballot again when the voters already said yes. So any more discussion from board members? Ms. Tinderberry?
Well, my concern, as I've mentioned before, is we haven't had a committee of the whole meeting with regard to millages that will be asked to be on the ballot. We have several, police, fire, library, parks, roads that we've talked about, but yet we have not decided which ones we think are necessary to go before the voters. And now here's another one. I just think that, you know, each monthly meeting, we're going to be addressing, you know, and have pages of ballot proposals, and you know that the public is not going to approve. Plus the county ones, this is just Bedford, there's several county ones that will be on the ballot. I think that we can't just keep piecemealing this and vote on each one as it comes before us. We need to decide which ones we're going to support, for one. And then my other question is to you, Supervisor Peroni. Did you go to the Christmas meal, dinner?
Yeah, I did.
Are you on the board?
No. But I am.
No, but the representatives from each taxing unit are invited, so that's why Mr. Peroni, and that's why Mayor Clark and Monroe was invited.
Not
That's
to be
why,
argumentative,
Mr.
but you
McDivitt
said
and
the board.
Frenchtown Township was invited. Again, the dinner is a very, very small cost, and for the appreciation with the people that we work with, I think is well worth it.
Well, and for me, I look at it as an opportunity to say thank you to the employees and get to know them and, you know, yeah.
And sit at the table with a state representative and talk transit ideas.
Right.
Well worth it.
Thank you very much.
All right,
So,
thank you.
Any more discussion? Mr. Fredericks?
Well, I'm a member of the senior center, and for lunch, when you see the LET bus show up, a good number of seniors step off for their only hot meal of the day. They come in time to play cards. They love the fellowship. They have a nice lunch, and they go home. I know that the folks at Ivor Lindsay, some of those people do not have any form of transportation, and they use the bus to get along so that they have a form of independence. You used to cover, Mark, you used to cover some of the school kids. I don't know if you do that anymore, but. We don't. Yeah. So I am of the view that our citizens should determine whether or not this goes forward. But I would think that we have a graying, older community, some gray hairs and no hairs, and that
Sometimes
we're
that beats
building,
gray hair.
we're building more and more senior citizen facilities. And Mr. Supervisor, I think you're right. If we advertise a little bit more in the senior citizen facilities, maybe we get a few more writers. So I guess going forward, Mark, that's part of your responsibility, is to get the information to these new facilities so that they understand that for $1 they can go have lunch, for $1 they can get home. That's pretty cheap transportation. But again, I think this is something that our citizens should decide. And if they're willing to help our senior citizens, I think they should vote for it. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
I will say this, though, in light of Ms. Tinderberry not having all the information, I don't disagree with her that we should table it.
I'm not the only one. They said they didn't get it either.
No, I'm just saying whoever. I'm saying there is plenty of time. Any more discussion?
Is there anyone at this table that could interpret that budget to make a decision on this? I sit on that board, and that budget's very difficult. I was through the budget process. I know how it's put together. I think this is just a delaying tactic for no reason at all. And I just totally disagree with tabling. I think you should do it now. Are you going to change your mind based on what you see in that budget?
No.
It's basically the same operation that we have right now that's being proposed for 4 years, the same operation. You can quibble about $1 or $2, but it's really the service that you're buying for those in this township that desperately need that type of transportation. We pay just a small portion of it.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the resolution to approve a ballot proposal for local public transportation services renewal to be placed on the primary election ballot, which will take place on August 7th, 2018, as presented.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor.
Second.
Motion supported by Mr. Fredericks. Discussion?
I'd just like to say that I do resent the fact that the treasurer can interpret my motives, and I just don't believe that everyone on this board has a right to their own opinion and their own requests and their own decisions about anything that comes before this board, and I would never begin to assume that I can read someone else's mind.
Mr. Chairman, I never said I could read someone's mind.
You said it's a stall tactic for no reason.
I'm not allowed an opinion, or are you the only one that's allowed an opinion?
No, you're allowed an opinion, but not an opinion to
Mr. Supervisor,
determine
call the
what
question.
is
Call the
on my
question.
mind.
Okay, let's, any more discussion? Okay, so let's go for a vote here.
Mr. Francis.
Aye.
Mr. Frederick.
Aye.
Mr. Clemens.
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry.
No, for the reason that we have not been given enough information.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion has passed 5-1. Okay, 8D, request for approval of various maintenance project contracts with the Monroe County Road Commission. Mr. Francis?
In your packet, there's a little package showing a summary page that I'd like to run over, and then attached are the contracts that that summary page reflects. I guess I might as well just read it. Excuse me. We have to vote on them individually because they are individual contracts between the township and Monroe County Road Commission. So to start off with, I move that we approve the contract with the Road Commission for Krabbe Road, which is, these are small items. They're overband crack fill operations and mowing and chloride. So the first one is for Krabbe Road, and the description is 200 feet north and south of Dean and 50 feet east on Krabbe. It's about .01 miles. It's overband crack fill. The total contract is for $1,260. The township share is $945. The road commission share is $315. Move that we approve that as presented.
Support.
Motion supported. Discussion? Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis.
Aye.
Mr. Clemens.
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry.
Aye.
Mr. Frederick.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 6-0.
The second one is for overband crack fill on Dean Road from Lewis to the Ann Arbor Railroad. It's .55 miles. The total cost of that project is $2,520. The township share is $1,890. The road commission share is $630. I move that we approve that as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported, Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis.
Aye.
Mr. Clemens.
Aye.
Ms. Tinneberry.
Aye.
Mr. Frederick.
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni.
Aye, the motion passed 6-0.
Okay, the third one is overbrand crack fill on Dean Road from Monroe Road to Secor. It's .25 miles. The total contract is $1,680. The township share is $1,260, and the road commission share is $420. I move that we approve that as presented.
Support.
Okay, motion is supported. Discussion? Would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0.
Okay, that completes the overband crack fill. The next one is for mowing, and it's for all local roads. It's 2018, entitled Local Road Mowing. The first cut is in the spring. The second cut is in the fall.
Yeah.
As presented, the total contract is $23,600. The township shares 100% of that, $23,600. I move that, there's actually 3 cuts, not 2. There's 3 cuts. I move that we present that we approve that contract as presented.
Support.
Motion supported by Mr. Clemens. Discussion? Okay, seeing none, could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0.
Okay, and the last one is for chloride dust control, and it's 2 applications on local roads. The total contract is for $39,288. The township shares 100% of that, $39,288. I move that we approve that contract as presented.
Support.
Motion supported. Discussion? I just want to say we've switched to calcium chloride. It lasts a lot longer. It keeps the dust down a lot more than the stuff we used to use in the past, and it actually holds the dirt road together a lot better, so you see less potholes. So we did get a lot less complaints last year, so. Okay. Could you call the roll, please?
Mr. Francis?
Aye.
Mr. Clemens?
Aye.
Mr. Frederick?
Aye.
Ms. Tinnevery?
Aye.
Hirschberger votes aye. Mr. Peroni?
Aye, and the motion passed 6-0. Okay. Thank you very much. Number 9, comments from the public. Comments limited to 5 minutes for each individual. Come on up.
Good evening, Logan Tisdale, 13 Waive, Brandywine Street. I pay very little money for fire and police protection. I think my last winter bill, most of the money went to intermediate school district and also to the community college. A half a mil is $50 for me. You can hardly buy a meal at a decent restaurant for me and my wife for $50, so I think that the township voters here should have no problems in approving a 0.5 millage for the fire department. These are men and women who are willing to risk their lives. We want to make sure they have the equipment and the money to do that. The last township meeting, there was and the information was the Monroe County service summary for the month. I'm going to ask you some questions off of that. My guess is most people haven't even looked at it. How long does it take for one officer to stop a vehicle in Bedford Township? 4.25 hours. How many tickets do they write in a shift? It takes them 7.8 hours to write one traffic citation. How many traffic accidents happened in Bedford Township in January 2018? 62. How many accidents happened in 2017 in Bedford Township? 562. How many officers logged hours against the contract in January 2018? 31. How many officers logged 15 minutes for the entire month against the contract in January 2018? 2. Here's my question. Why has a private citizen brought to the attention of this board the possibility that the Monroe County Sheriff's Department contract unit is charging us for services that we've already paid for in a possible amount of tens of thousands of dollars? I know that you've looked into the situation and that you have spent many hours analyzing the matter and that you have sent questions to the Monroe County Sheriff's Department in regards to this possible overbilling, and still, almost after 2 weeks, there have been no response from them. I have a copy of the questions, and they should have been easily answered. This is my suggestion. It's time to move to the next level, and that is to hire an independent attorney to look into the matter and determine if this township has a legal avenue to pursue to recover the possible hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money that may have been lost in the past 5 years through this agreement. I know what's going on here. The bottom line is that for the last 5 years, my guess is that I've been coming to these meetings now for almost a year and a half. The sheriff's contract has been just kind of like an information thing. Nobody even looks into it. Maybe you don't know what you're looking at. I understand that. Ignorance I can understand ignorance, but now that it's been brought to the attention of this board that the possibility that the service contract officers are charging us hours that they're not supposed to charge us for, that needs to be taken care of and remedied. It's costing us a lot of money. We pay $43 and something cents an hour, and that's the 80-20 rate for 1 hour of service. And every time they log an hour that they're not supposed to, it costs the taxpayers $43 and change for that time. I don't think that's right. We deserve better than that. And I'm not blaming the deputies for that. This has to come from somewhere else. Who's putting these hours together? Where is all this information coming from? The deputies are just out there working. But who's logging all these hours on this contract and sending us the bill? I know that every 3 months we pay that bill. It's been the same now probably for every month or every quarter now for I don't know how many years. So the person who's even doing that probably doesn't even know how many hours are being charged against the township. And we should be only paying for the hours that we have to pay for and nothing more than that. General fund deputies should be down here, shouldn't cost us anything for that. And the bottom line is the only people we should be paying for are the 10 people that we contract with to come down here and work our roads and answer our calls and work our roads. All these other hours that they're paying for, we don't even know what those are. The only thing I'm interested in is what are you doing on complaints and what are you doing on the road? I talked to a trooper today. I stopped and saw him today on Lewis Avenue. The bottom line is my wife and I, we said hi to him because I know who it is. I turned around in the parking lot where he was parked at Stearns and Smith Road, and before I could get out onto the road again, he had a car stopped. It took me like 90 seconds to get out onto the road, and he already had a car stop. And I saw him before that having a car stop, just on Lewis Avenue. So my question is, you know what, if the state police can go out there and stop 2 cars an hour, write 1 ticket an hour, then why can't our contract guys do that? Even somewhere close to that would be happy. I'd be happy with that. I wouldn't be up here if it wasn't for that. So thank you. I appreciate you looking into that, and I hope you get some kind of answers from them because they need to deserve, the people of this township need to know the answers to these questions that you've asked them. And I don't think they're unanswerable. They should be answered. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any more comments?
Jim Betts, live on Jackman Road between Rauch and 151 there, or Smerry Road.
Did you say Jim Vetz?
Betts, B-E-T-Z.
B-E-T.
And I'd like to know when that's going to be repaved. It's been needing repaved for years.
Say the name of the road again.
Jackman. Jackman Road between Rauch Road and Smerry Road.
Paul, go ahead.
I can answer that. That particular road is on the list that we would like to package together and then finance over a period of time. That is on the list.
A separate list.
My question is, when is it going to happen?
But when we can secure financing for it, it'll probably be done within the next year or so, if we get financing for it. I know, you've been promised that for 40 years, I know that.
Exactly.
But this is the closest we've come to actually getting it done. It's never been on a schedule before.
I've even talked to you about moving funds from the Krabbe Road deal over there.
Hey, sir, though, this just is comment time, so if you guys want to, we could talk afterwards. We're
All
glad.
right, but I just, it's been too long. It's
You're
beginning to look like
exactly right. It has
Ralph
been.
Road used to look like.
You're right.
Thank you.
Any more comments from the public? Come on up. I'll wait for you, Dale, don't worry.
My name's Greg Skyver, and I live at 1520 Meadowbrook Way. And anyway, I'd like to be as complimentary, and another one is somewhat negative. The complimentary part is that I've been trying to deal with things concerning our road. Everybody in this room that I've talked to has been very, very helpful. I went up to Monroe County Road Commission, and I talked to them, and they appeared to be very, very helpful. And I come to these meetings once in a while, and it's been kind of on my mind to bring it up and I am addressing it probably to you, Paul, directly. It is amazing how people sometimes, we elect all you people as officials. The conduct that we see and the responses and the argumentative attitudes are projected to our children and everyone in our community. And I do think at times we should be more selective in the way we say things to others and respectful of one another. It makes it difficult to come over here and sit and listen to things such as this and the quibbling and the wrangling that goes on. Everybody in this community would like to see the community be successful. And we should be contributing to things with a positive attitude rather than, I guess, I hate to use this slang word, sliming one another. And I'd just like to bring it to the attention of, we ought to look at how we respond to one another. And I thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Any more comments? Sure.
Thank you, sir.
Beside the handouts, the top one is more just to discuss. Dale Track, 2842 Sanibel Lane. Now, first, I gave you the handouts there. I'm not going to start on those first. I want to talk about a real problem that we have. It's our invisible, incredibly impenetrable southern border wall. We have to do something about this wall. We don't have enough border guards. You guys are looking at me like, what the heck is he talking about? I'll get right there to it.
Been a long day.
It has for me too, trust me. State Representative Shepard has a bill going through right now to eliminate no-fault car insurance. That would be one of the biggest tax breaks that this state would ever see. $200 on average per month for a family. It's huge for economic growth. It's huge for the possibilities for the things that we could possibly do in this community. It's things that I'm not saying that there'd be direct benefit to millages, but when people have more disposable income, they might be more apt to vote for millages. So I'd like to ask the board to pass a resolution fully supporting State Representative Shepard. And I ask the same of the school board, that we get behind State Rep Shepard to be able to get this to the governor before he leaves office. Like I said, the economic engine that could be created from this is just huge, just huge. Now, Senator Zorn doesn't seem to feel the same way. He thinks that we can kind of tinker around the edges with it, with the health insurance avenue of it, but this thing needs to be pulled out by its roots. It needs to go away. I think people in our southern state could say yes to Michigan again. It could possibly bring families in again. You look at something that might inhibit people from moving into Bedford, they say, okay, well, Bedford's got low taxes. Well, you look at what I would call a border guard, an insurance agent, and you start putting the double insurance on top of your taxes, it's pretty close to what some of the suburbs are paying. So we need to get a resolution. We need to get some people strongly back in State Rep Shepard. Also, I'd like to move on. You're talking about redoing roads, and that top sheet that I handed out there, I have a concern. I'm not saying that we shouldn't do roads, but I think back 9 years ago, and that's the reason I pulled this out, is how were people feeling when they had to come in after the housing crisis? And that's my concern if we start getting a little bit too much debt ahead of us. Are we going to be able to service the debt? And one of the avenues that we used to balance the budget back then was to put the 1% admin cost on there. So I would hate to see that return. It's down to a half. But if you look at it with the figures that I've given you, the admin fee plus a $9.75 fire assessment, that's almost a .125 mil that nobody voted for. So there's other things that need to be considered also. There's a reason why, I believe, why the water department went to monthly billing. And from what I'm hearing out of Ohio, out of Toledo, we're looking at about a $25 per month average with the regional water billing. What's that? Well, I'm just saying on average. So, I mean, when we start looking at, that's why I came up here as part of Bedford CFFR to promote a comprehensive millage package. Because if we look at it as a community, we need to grow as a community. And if we put, you know, yeah, we're seeing a lot of millages, but if we kind of put the brakes on, let's analyze this and try to grow it as a community, we can get it done. But we just have to do it differently now. Our demographics are different. And it's just a unique opportunity right now. I think this is the time to do that package. So, and one last thing, the sheets that I've included also in there, so the people at home, I've got a breakdown in there of what the Lake Erie Transit millage is going to cost. I also have the what the fire department millage is going to cost. And that's to help people be educated on where their costs are. And that doesn't include their total millage. But in the sheets that I passed out previously to you in the last meeting, it shows the different breakdowns in the millages, but this is an individual breakdown for those millages. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Oops.
Real quick, Paul, where are we at? Have you looked at this comprehensive millage package? Is this something that we should be moving on a little quicker with everything that's going on? Or, I mean, can you give us, I know you've delved into it a little bit.
Frankly, I'm not sure I understand what he means by a comprehensive millage package. You mean combining all the millages together and have one vote on the whole package?
Come on back up, Dale. I mean, I don't want this to be a thing where you're coming up every meeting and not getting anywhere with it.
See, the general concept is really pretty easy. What we want to do is first have a series of town halls. Let's find out what the entities need in their short, intermediate, and long-term needs. In the needs and the costs. Let's evaluate those costs. Then in the second phase, you bring in concerned citizens, business owners, and any other concerned groups that can give you kind of an idea. And, you know, everybody within these entities all have their own opinion about their mill. But if we bring in a bigger part of the community together and start hashing this out, we can find a dollar amount to start putting to these millages and the durations.
So you're saying like we would join with the school millage if they were to do one?
Well, it wouldn't be one millage altogether. It would be a combined package. It would be, okay, this millage starts this year. This millage starts next year. And it would be voted on as a package. It's just like the school next year is going to have a millage. They're going to put a bond on in 2019. And I think it's kind of ridiculous because they're going to pay $15,000 to $20,000 to run a millage, to run the
Why don't us
election.
three talk after the meeting and we'll
All right,
see if
well,
we can
but like
move
I
something with
said,
it.
basically it's to try to find a package together that the whole community can vote on, be it parks, be it police, be it the fire department, that we can just push everything forward because if everybody gets a little, TC and I talked before, if everybody gets a little of something, it might not be everything, but we can get the whole package moving as a community.
Thank you, I appreciate it. We'll get with them after the meeting, Paul, for kind of make sure we're
be glad
moving
to.
somewhere. Okay, any more comments from the public?
Ken Gagne, 8311 Lambert Street. I don't have a problem with the fire department millage. If it would have been one, they'd get my vote. I do have a problem with Lake Erie Transit because I've seen the bus pull into Kroger's, half a dozen people. I've never seen it down at the senior center, but I think everybody, all the taxpayers are paying for something that they're not utilizing. And the The school millage, I have a real problem with that because the business owners and people like myself with rental property, we pay. I have 3 places in Bedford, I have 1 in Erie. I paid over $6,000 for school. My daughter and son-in-law have 140 acres in Iowa. Their taxes for the whole year, $500. They rent the farmland for $14,000 a year, paid before the crop is put in. They rent to a father and son out of Vermont for hunting rights for 1 week, $3,000. And their taxes are $500. And it's been that way for about 4 years that they've owned it. I just can't understand why people that try to have property and stuff like that has got to pay that school millage. And the people that got the kids in school and they rent, they're not paying nothing. I can't understand it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Any more comments? Okay, seeing none. Okay, comments from board members? Mr. Clements?
My only comment was a thank you to the firefighters tonight. We were scheduled to be able to recognize some appointments of some new officers, but as fate would have it, they were all on a fire. And while it disrupts an agenda, it just is a really good reminder that I think we all ought to think about, that we live in a community where a lot of volunteers sacrifice a lot for all of our safety. And I don't know that we can say thank you or show our appreciation enough for that, but I just wanted to acknowledge that. Other than that, I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Fredericks?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have 3 items. We have tonight approved $1.1 million for a truck that we need. The total loan amount for equipment that we have out now is $1.7 million. I call those non-collateralized loans because nobody wants a fire truck back if we don't pay for it. Mr. Francis has talked about $2.5 million for roads. We're now at $4.2 million. We have a number of SADs out for road improvements. We have several grant applications where there will be local matches. It seems to me that one of the things we should be thinking about is prioritizing how we go forward, because we're spending more than we're bringing in. We recognized the risk tonight when we talked about the Quint ladder truck, but it is a risk. We cannot continue to spend more than we're bringing in. Now, I recognize that Mr. Francis has looked out on a 5-year and a 10-year program, and yes, we can make all this work. But we can't afford another downturn in the economy that we had in 2008. We keep saying, well, we don't have to worry about the SADs because we'll get paid by the county treasurer if the taxes are delinquent. I will advise you that in 2009, the county board, in putting together its budget, almost took all of the money out of the revolving tax fund to balance the budget. And if they would have done that, delinquent taxes would have stayed at home. I don't know that they'll do that again, or if they'll ever do it in the future. We heard tonight that one of the things we should be talking about is a collaborative of taxes, maybe some kind of a community package. I've talked to some folks at the county level, And they are deeply concerned about that, trying it at the county level. Because they don't think they could ever reach an agreement. I don't know if they can or they can't. Certainly, it's something that we should look at. And lastly, Mr. Supervisor, I told you ahead of tonight that I received a phone call from somebody who wanted to remain anonymous, who lives in Oakwood Trailer Park, which is over on Smith and Telegraph. And his comments essentially were, why do I have to drive out of my home and I see the recycling place looks like a dump, and I drive up the road and here's trash laying all over the road, cars parked with no license plates. This is what he's telling me. And he said, I know you think we're trailer trash. He said, but if that happened in your neighborhood, Mr. Frederick, you'd be on it in a minute. Now, I understand his issue. My wife and I started out in a manufacturing facility. We had a manufactured home. It was 50 by 10, 500 square feet. I don't consider him trailer trash because that's all he can afford. That's what he told me. I said, well, give me your name so that I can turn this over to the ordinance department to go, come talk to you. He said, I don't want to give you my name because the big money people will be after me and I don't want that to happen. So he wanted to be quiet. I really spent some time on the phone talking to the gentleman. I've talked to you, Mr. Supervisor, about this. So from time to time, and I leave this up to you, maybe rather than waiting for a complaint to be lodged, when we see a situation where there's substantial and serious violations of township ordinances, maybe the township on its own motion should step up and do something rather than wait for a complaint. But I leave that to your analysis. The recycling facility is just undergoing changes. It's getting put together, put in place, and the Jeep place that he caught, they all have license plates on them, so they're there. But he had a complaint. He didn't think that we would respond to that. So I calmed him down, talked to him for quite a long time, advised him that, yeah, my wife and I started out the same way you did. He thanked me for discussing it with him and spending some time. But again, in my last comment is maybe sometime when we see in the community serious and lengthy violations of township ordinances, rather than waiting for a complaint, we might want to think about stepping up ourselves. Now, I don't want our ordinance officer to be Uber cops, running all over town and throwing out citations like they're candy. But maybe there are situations where, after your analysis, Mr. Supervisor, we might step forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Stanberry?
Yeah, just a couple things. First of all, again, I have to agree with Mr. Tisdale. I think that we have done a disservice to the public by dragging this whole sheriff's department issue out too long without giving some kind of a answer or resolve to the public. Number two, I have to agree with Mr. Betts. We have put asphalt down on millions of dollars worth of road since I've been on the board, and yet we always seem to bypass the roads north of Samaria Road. There's money to do it. We just choose to do it on maybe more populated roads. I don't know the reason, but I've asked for Jackman, Douglas, all of those north of Samaria Road to be on the plan almost every year, And I'm told that it's on the 5-year plan, but, you know, we can't get to it unless we do a bond or borrow money. It doesn't seem right. And then lastly, as a library advisory board liaison, I need to inform the board that at their last meeting, last Monday, they voted to address the board and ask for a 0.25, 1/4 mill levy to be put on the ballot. And I'm understanding that the librarian would like to, Jody, would like to come to give a presentation to the board during the library week, library recognition week, and I'm hoping that she would be able to get on the agenda to do that. And at that time, that's sometime April 8th, that week of April 8th. And during that presentation, I'm sure that she will address the needs for the library facility. She's done a wonderful job. I think that she's a great community leader and has presented the library as a wonderful community asset. And I'm just saying there's that need to continue to promote it that way. And so I'm just adding to the list, or they have asked to be added to the list. That's all.
Mr. Francis?
Excuse me, I have nothing to add tonight.
Okay. Ms. Hirschberger?
Just a couple things. The Crown Vic, I just want to make the board members aware that we put out for a second time for bids. We received no bids again. I don't know if we want to continue to bid it out at the minimum price we had it for, but nobody's bidding on it, so that's something we'll have to decide. Want to remind the residents to spring forward this weekend, or you'll all be late for the trade fair. And just to let the board members know that next week, actually starting this Sunday, I will be away for training for the week. I will be back in the office on Monday. And that's all I have.
Okay, well, thank you. Well, it's been a great 2 weeks since our last board meeting. Just continue to move forward in a lot of different initiatives we have going on. I wanted to speak to Mr. Frederick's phone call that he received. Part of the problem with the house you spoke of with vehicles out front with unlicensed, that's part of the problem why we're taking our ordinance department so seriously nowadays. Because in the past, this has been an ongoing issue probably for 10 years. And you go from one ordinance officer to the next that says, don't worry about it. Just park them over there. That's no big deal. And then we come in this year and we say, no, this is how it's got to be done. And we've got it to where he's got every vehicle plated. And guess what? There is no number of how many vehicles you can have in your yard if they're plated. Don't want that to really be, so. And to speak to Mulch King, they're a new business. I mean, heck, they just got approved, last fall. They have a lot of earth to move, feet. So let's cut them some slack, and give them a little bit of time. Let's let them get through spring, maybe even early summer. And I will assure you it will look a lot better, but it's wet. If anybody in construction knows when you're moving dirt, you can't do it when it's muddy. Just doesn't work. So give him some grace, but he'll continue to move forward on that. Just quick, Mr. Pryor's not here tonight. He's at a gun club meeting for the proposed rebuild of the gun club. And we had a great town hall meeting tonight. We had Stephanie Zorn with the Monroe County Opportunity Program, Carrie Pitson, the director of the Health Van, Diane Carroll, the director of the Senior Center, and Jamie E. Thorne, Monroe County Department of Health. If you didn't get a chance to see that town hall meeting, I would highly suggest you go back and watch it for residents that are low income, that need help, that want to know about county services. Man, what a lot of great services out there, from helping you fix your home to putting fuel in your car to food. So it's very good meeting. Had another great pillar meeting with the I-75 corridor study with the 8 site developments. I actually am leading a team from different business people. The owner, Rudolph Libby's on my team. And we've got different real estate people on the team. And we're continuing to identify the needs for those different sites. There's probably 15 different teams. I'm just involved with one of them. So we continue to move forward with that. Tim Lake's been awesome to work with. Had another good Lewis Avenue Development Corridor meeting. Everything's been done to submit for the TAP grant. I just wanted to clear the air. There's been some rumors going around that Bedford Township is bulldozing Temperance. That is absolutely not true. There is some interest in a company buying a couple of the old dilapidated buildings off Lewis Avenue and building something nice and new. I would encourage that with some of the buildings down there personally. Our biggest mission for that group is to maintain the history, the rich history of downtown Temperance. But that doesn't mean that, you know, individuals that own a building can't move forward with what they want to do. So I wanted to put that rumor out. Jim Nyhan is the new committee chair for that committee. I would like to mention, come on out to the trade fair. If you have any questions, we'll have a booth for the fire department, for the beautification committee, for the parks committee, commission, and for the township. So bike month is in May. We are looking to have an event. Call Al prior with any ideas you have if you're a biker. I had the opportunity to give a township update at the BBA meeting last week. I got to say, I do love the lunch meetings. I think they're heavily attended, so I would encourage them to continue with the lunch meetings. Other than that, you know, we have a lot of good ideas with, you know, what to do with these northern roads. They have been, you know, untouched for a long time. It's not that they just, you know, just overlook them. You know, there's a lot of roads in Bedford Township with little money to do them with. But this plan, myself and Mr. Francis have come up with, it's a plan to get them done. Nobody else has really come forward with a plan to do them. So, I mean, this is just an option. Within doing this option and talking about this, the road commission has stepped up and said, we want to give you $400,000 to help fix Whiteford Center on top of what we normally give you. So to me, you know, there's some wins there already. And that's on top of the, you know, the other cost savings we've talked about. So we are trying, you know, there's a lot of needs in the township from the fire department. You know, and everybody's got their opinions on different services that are provided. You know, but we are working diligently. I met today with Jody at the library about handling systems. I'm working very hard to get these buildings to zero net. I just introduced Mr. Massengill to the guy that controls all the handles and would put all these different sensors on all the areas to make these buildings to where you can cut costs down, because like the library's heated and aired 24/7. We're looking at a savings of $15,000 a year and a payoff of in 3 years at the library with doing these new handlers. So I'll be bringing that to the board. It's roughly the cost to do it's roughly, I don't know, but it's in the $50,000 range, but the payback is pretty quick. So I mean, if we can do this with the building here, and we, you know, the same things are here, you know, with lighting, we're looking at bringing a lighting package here at the Township Hall from Voss again. They finally have a quote ready for us. So we're continuing to cut here without cutting service. We're continuing to look at every building without, you know, adding costs. So we are trying hard. We're cutting the budget 5% in every department this year. So we're looking at different ways, you know, to do these things. So if anybody has any further questions for me, Mr. Hersberger?
Does Paul want to, do you want to say something about the water bills for the public?
Good idea. As you may or may not know, the township bills sewer bills on a quarterly basis. Starting the 1st of this month, March 1st, the South County Water changed to a monthly billing rather than quarterly. That's created some consternation of some folks in getting a bill every month. What's created more consternation is for years and years and years, we worked in conjunction with South County Water that we would collect water bills and sewer bills here and then deposit the water in their account for them as an accommodation to benefit our citizens. So if they're coming in, then we could pay both. Now, the water, South County Water will not allow us to collect water bills anymore starting the 1st of March, 6 days ago. We've had a lot of people today and all week that are, I guess, upset with that. It's just a change. No one likes change. And I've got to admit, I'm probably one of them that doesn't like change. But I'm trying to get it through my mind why it's cheaper to drive a car than put a stamp on an envelope and mail it. That's our choice with South County Water. We can either mail it to South County Water. They have a drop box. They're located on Lewis Avenue near the water tower, which is by the railroad track between Erie and Temperance roads. And that's where they'd like us to pay our water bills, not here anymore. So just trying to clarify that and allay some fears. There's no change in it. There's no change in the rates. Effective the first year, they went up. They aren't changing again. They're just changing how often they bill it. So that's all I have in it.
I just wanted to mention one more thing. I did get an opportunity to do a ride-along with the fire department, and I appreciate that. I didn't get to go on any runs, though, but it was fun.
They make
Okay.
you ride on the top of the truck, or were you actually
They
inside?
put me in the back of the ambulance, so I was by myself. So we stand adjourned.